Hey everyone, how you doing? This is the We Have Issues podcast. I'm Carvel.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Matt.
One of the things we wanted to talk about today is about extremism. Extremism on the far left, extremism on the far right, religious extremism, and single issue extremism. That's something that exists in our society today that we really have to better understand it and tackle it and talk more about it so we can come to an understanding of where each of us are coming from and thinking. So, one of the things I wanted to probably start off with is the definition of extremism. One of the definitions I have of extremism is an ideology that is pretty much different from the norm. And it can, for an example, the far right extremism could include ideologies that is maybe white supremacies, anti-immigrant, anti-immigrant sentiment, or neo-Nazi, but to the extreme. It's not about just having that, but it's to the very extreme. Or maybe when it comes to left extremism, focus on revolutionary socialism, communism, things of that structure, and to the extreme, and may call for dismantling a capitalist structure through radical actions, and to the extreme. This is kind of how I see the right or the left when they have extremism. How about you, Chris? Do you have a definition of extremism, and what do you feel?
Political extremism is just at its core when you take a political ideology and stretch it so far that it begins to create harm. Some political ideologies, I think, are by their nature extreme. Nazism, for instance, that's an extreme ideology that can't be really watered down. But you have things like racial supremacy ideologies, those sorts of things. You can't really water those down to a palatable thing. Those are just by their nature extreme. And any belief can get to that point. Even extreme pacifism could be dangerous because then no one's able to defend themselves. So, I honestly, though, in this climate, I'd probably prefer to have more extreme pacifism than what we've been getting. That's basically where I see extremism being.
How about you, Matt?
Um, I think we could build on what you already said, Carvel, and what Chris has said. It's obviously an ideology, and there is an element of kind of deviating from the norm, and that's what I would say. There's two qualifiers. So extremism, I would say, would deviate from the norm of what kind of is general consensus on things. So an example of that would be flat Earth theory. That's definitely deviates from the norm. However, that's not necessarily dangerous. What I would say would be the second qualifier for extremism, and this would be what would make it dangerous, is it has to exist separate from the rest of society. That causes problems. In this instance, of course, the big events, Charlie Kirk had differing opinions. I think everybody here on this panel differed with him and had disagreements with things that he said. However, we understand generally how Charlie probably came to arrive at his conclusions, and we respected his right to voice those opinions. Apparently, there was an individual that did not feel that way. He could not even stand to hear a different account, a different perspective on the things that he believed. And so that would be what I would say extremism is: deviates from the norm and starts to become dangerous when it cannot exist alongside other opinions or ideas in society.
Since you brought up Charlie Kirk, a lot of people have said that he himself was an extremist. That his some of the views that he held were not appropriate to express, and even harmed others. I think what we are kind of seeing now is an eye for an eye mentality,
Hmm.
where I feel like I need to match extremism with the opposite end of that extremism to create some kind of balancing force. Instead of coming together to compromise, we just seek to destroy the other side. Do you think that there's any, foundation to that belief that he was an extremist? Do you think that he expressed any views that were like that?
Oh, he was definitely to me a bit of an extremist, but a non-violent extremist. He would often preach that let's have dialogue. That was one of his number one things. That when I seen him speak, he would always emphasize dialogue, talking. Hey, if you disagree with me, come talk to me. So that's kind of how I perceived him. But at the same time, some of his ideologies um, were very extreme and I could see it could cause the other side of whatever the spectrum is to feel some sort of way. Um, as you guys know, and we've had a long discussion about gun control, and it was probably determined that me and you, Chris, are on the very opposite spectrums, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm passionate about it, and you're passionate about it,
Mm-hmm.
but we're not passionate to the point where we're willing to take each other's lives. Because
Absolutely.
I could live in a society where there's more guns, but I would take other precautions. Me personally, I'm not sure about you, Chris, but this
I mean, I could imagine a society without guns. I just
right,
think when you have people involved, that
right.
society becomes difficult to
and
reach.
and when you're able to adjust in society that is not exactly sculpt the way you like, then that's when you're okay with your thoughts and your feelings. Yes, I feel that we have too many guns on the streets, more than enough, but I can't change it, and I'm not gonna go to Capitol Hall and start shooting everyone because I don't like it. Or blow. I'm not gonna do that because that's not in my nature, and that's one thing that our society is getting away from. And that's the compromise. That's the understanding where the other person is coming from, and we're falling deeper and deeper into a division, and each side is becoming more and more extreme, not only in their thoughts but in their actions, which is quite scary.
I was just going to commend you for your little dialogue there about being adaptable. I think that is important. It's a very good point. I've encountered situations in my life that I've had to adapt to. Seems to be that I cannot work as much as I want to for another company, and that's now why I own my own. Adaptability is important. But as far as we'll go back to the original question about Charlie Kirk being an extremist, I every once in a blue moon something of his would pop up, and he usually had that short format is how I saw him. So I didn't know an extreme amount about Charlie. I did not realize he was as influential as he was. I didn't know what Turning Point USA actually achieved or how large of an organization it was. My wife was a big fan, and most of what I saw from Charlie came from her. She would show me clips that she liked. In what I have seen, uh, before this happened, and of course, I've seen a lot more after this event has taken place. The only thing that I got from Charlie that was an extreme perspective in my book was they asked if his daughter had been raped. He said that she would carry the baby and deliver the baby, and they would keep the baby. And even being in a pro-life party the way we are, that to me seemed like a pretty extreme stance. I've seen accusations of racism. There are, I think, Charlie, from what I saw, he had some difficult truths, some hard truths, probably some takes that did not fully address or give the dues to cultural, to systematic issues that affect interracial relations. So but I don't think racist is a good term at all. In fact, I saw one video where he told there was a black lady who came up to speak with him, and he questioned her about her child that she had with her, and said that that child was a blessing from God. Does not sound like something a racist would do. Maybe
Mm.
somebody that's a little bit racially insensitive, um, but I don't think anything that I saw levied at him really qualified as him being an extremist.
Yeah, I think he walked that thin line that was always like could be this side or that side. For an example, you spoke about the girl and with her daughter and just saying how beautiful she was, and he's really good friends with Candace Owens, even though that's depending on
that's
what
kind of a
black
separate
person you ask,
issue,
right?
right?
Yeah. So he
Did
has
you
black
just take
friends,
away
right?
Candace's black card, Carvel?
Oh my
No, I
god.
didn't. She still has it. But like for an example, he called George Floyd after he died a scumbag, and that's something that you know you hear, like we talked about this before about how people are rejoicing in his death,
Mhm.
and that's something that I will not take part in, and I probably would never take part in, because I don't know what God had him here on the earth for. I don't know if he went to heaven. I don't know if he went to hell. I don't know. I don't know his heart, and I'm not going to judge the guy. I didn't want to judge him in an indecent way while he was living, and I'm definitely not going to do it while he's dead. But when you call someone like George Floyd, who by some will say he was murdered, uh, a scumbag, then it's like you're insulting a different spectrum that's much different from you. And then when you say about the Civil Rights Act was a mistake, and maybe Martin Luther King, didn't have it right or something, I might be
I
paraphrasing.
think he was critical of Martin Luther King's character, his
Right,
personal
right,
life,
exactly.
which was has some
and
controversy
and
with
that's
it.
that's extremely controversial, and that's going to bring the extremists out. Like me, I love Martin Luther King. That is my guy. There's other black figures like Malcolm X that I don't take it to heart to
Hmm.
because of the way they practice, or
See,
the way they
it's
preach theirs. But Martin Luther King, he walked in a way that was admirable, and a lot of the things that he did that I see is I take in my character, and it's who I am, right? So when you insult these figures that people hold dearly, such as Martin Luther King or George Floyd or whatever, that will bring out the extremism in people, especially the left.
yeah, but there's also an element of being real about who a person is. And Carvel, you said walk a fine line, and that's definitely, this is one of those situations where it's a fine line. You can say that a person, just because they pass doesn't, to me, it doesn't keep you from being able to criticize a person. And just because you did something bad, because there was a character flaw, I don't think that is cause to write off the good things a person does. So calling George Floyd a scumbag, to me, is not on par with rejoicing in a man's death, editing videos and sending them to friends and family of that person. But it is a fine line. Probably a better way to address those issues that somebody like Floyd had. Probably, well, there's definitely a better way to address the issues that Dr. King had. Actually, very surprising to me, Carvel, that you said that about Malcolm X. I read his biography years ago, and that was eye opening. Completely changed my mind about him, made me look at him differently. And I would have to say that I actually like how Malcolm X handled business better than Dr. King even. So I
Mm,
found that quite interesting.
right. Okay. Yeah. I mean, you hit on something that is real genuine, because in this day of age, uh, I think Malcolm X would have fared better than Martin Luther King.
Oh, for sure, definitely.
These issues. when we're talking about extremism and how Charlie Kirk walked a thin line with it, Matt, if you are following me and you got to understand, or let's say I'm living in an era where civil rights is needed, and you guys are following me to the T, and somebody dies who I completely disagree with, and I call him a scumbag. The issue comes in not with me calling him that, but it's what my followers do. And my followers think it's okay to um, make these memes. Say something like, "Hey, you see this meme. Hey, it's been 5 years since George Floyd has been sober." An awful joke, right?
Yeah, that is, yes.
Yeah, and it's things like this. For an example, I follow Jesus' teaching, and for an example, what Jesus taught when him and his disciples went to a city, and the city rejected them badly, and the disciples turned to Jesus and said, "Should we call down fire to destroy these cities?" Jesus immediately rebuked them and said, what are we doing here? Like I'm not. No, their judgment is later. You're not gonna. I'm paraphrasing, right?
Mm.
You're not gonna sit here and tell me you're gonna want to destroy these cities. We're not doing that, pretty much. And that's the concept. That's Jesus's idea, right? Where Jesus was very extreme, especially in that day. But however, his extreme was not violent towards people.
Carvel, I think you have made a really good point that it's, when you become that leader, when you become that force, you kind of have a responsibility towards your own followers. And you should understand that your followers not only are going to take your lead, they're going to magnify it by force.
Right.
By the sheer size of themselves. And I don't know how often someone like Charlie Kirk would rebuke his own followers for these sorts of things. He might not have exacerbated it himself, but they exacerbate each other. Same things in the left that's now mocking his death. They are egging each other on and trying to one up each other to be more and more offensive, more and more disrespectful, so that they can be the best of, the ones that were against him.
And that's a huge problem with this damn internet culture. It allows
yes, yes.
That's where I was leading into. What's the responsibility of social media? Where's social media right now? What do we do? In my opinion, as content creators, we have a responsibility to elevate ourselves, to lift our heads above all of that muck and grime and what's just keeping us down. We have to be the gatekeepers for these actions, and we have that responsibility. You have your what Charlie Kirk, your Hassan Piker. What are they doing? All of the people that I enjoy to follow have universally condemned this reaction. There's lots of content creators that, in fact, I don't think a single one of them has said anything but, that we have to be better. And that's what I love.
Right.
But those aren't the echo chambers. That's my own echo chamber. The echo chamber that these people are in, on the right, on the left. I mean, I never saw, I never watched Charlie Kirk's videos until he died. I wasn't in that circle. What are those people in that circle thinking? Likewise, what are those people in the other side thinking?
Well, yeah, this is where I put a lot of fault in our leadership. This is one reason why I do not like Trump. Look, guys, I would have voted Republican. I would have voted for any Republican except for Trump, and it's only because of the way he speaks, the way he acts, and the way he lives his life that I can't agree with because people look at him and they follow him and they do exactly what he does. So when the first news broke out, you can see articles or people saying like the Democrats own this. Oh, the left is blah blah blah. And I fed into it too as well, as you guys know. Like this is something that is very dangerous for us to do because what is the left going to do immediately? They're going to protect themselves and go on the offensive. They have every right to do that too as well when they're being attacked, when they constantly feel that they're being attacked by President Trump or other Democrats, when all you have to do is play right, play fair, talk and communicate to each other. But it doesn't happen that way. And this is I understand that this is an issue that we're gonna constantly have, and social media just brings it out more. But we have to get to a point where, especially our leaders, they have to get to a point where, and this used to be our politics before, and I hate to say it, you guys can completely disagree with me, but I feel like this was our politics before Trump, where I remember watching clips of Obama and Mitt Romney just be civilized when they talk.
How boring was that, though, Carvel?
It was boring. It was definitely boring. But you know what? Our politics, in some ways, should be boring.
Right.
It should be because when they're boring, nothing crazy is happening. And I don't know. Our society right now,
Remember that Obama
crazy.
was controversial? Remember 2008 when Obama was controversial?
Right. Yes, I do.
And I mean, when George W. Bush was controversial, even earlier than that. Al Gore was controversial, and he's about as controversial.
That's the reason why they were controversial.
I remember Ross Perot was a big deal.
Yeah.
Well, he was like the legitimate extremist controversial though. He would have been the extremist, but he was extreme in fixing the budget.
Right. Yeah,
he was a disruptor.
Yeah, but the thing about it right now, right? This is the first time in history that we're seeing presidents. I feel, correct me wrong, because presidents now in this age after 2016 are insulting and giving really bad insults to their competitors, either to the left, to the other presidents, other presidential candidates. He did this to the Republicans. He did this to the Democrats, and it's something that I'm not used to. Like when George Bush was getting nailed to the cross, that I felt he was very respectful. Mm-hmm. He didn't, and I'm saying him because he's the last Republican I can really remember, in my lifetime, of being
John McCain.
John McCain too. He was, he would never. I never heard anything just negative come out of his mouth in a way that it was just insulting people. George Bush didn't do it. McCain didn't do it. Of course, their policies were not, or at least George Bush policies. I like some of Trump's policies better than George Bush's policies. Mm. However, I really admire the way they led the country in a respectful way.
But the thing to remember is they were all in the club together. It's just a big illusion. I mean, it's both sides are working together. Everybody has this almost sport-like mentality of this. And the Republicans and the Democrats, once they closed the doors, once the cameras are off, they shook hands, they made deals together, they were friends. That's just how it is. Through some of the work I've done, I have some inside knowledge, not going to go into depth, but there were prominent Republicans hanging out with Democrats at their house. And you can say that's a positive thing, and that is, it may be a respectful way to deal with things, but I see it as just one big club. Trump was not part of that club. And really, you can say that Trump, I don't think Trump would have been nearly as bad as he was had he not gotten attacked first. He went on the defensive because if you remember, Trump was a Democrat. Democrats loved Trump. They had him on. He had been on Oprah. He had done all these talk shows where he interviewed with people. And Democrats had no problem in the 80s when Trump said he might be president one day or run for president one day. Then you fast forward, he comes down the escalator. The only thing that I could say at that point that he had kind of jumped on board with was the crazy birther crap. But up to that point, he hadn't really done anything controversial. And then they took that one clip of him saying that Mexico was sending criminals and rapists, and they took that out of context and made it a race issue. Trump did not say that Mexicans were rapists and criminals. He was saying they were coming through the border. And that ignited this shitstorm where everybody started to attack him. You saw this in the debates. There were other Republicans started to attack him. He's got that New York flair to him. He's a rough businessman. He has to be a shrewd businessman to achieve what he has achieved and to weather what he's weathered. And I say that if Trump had been treated with respect and kid gloves, let him get through his first 4 years. If he did great, he might have another 4 years. Trump might not have been there another 4 years. But Democrats made such a circus out of it. He had no other choice but to defend himself.
Well, I disagree with that because, first off, I feel like it didn't start with the Democrats. It started with the Republicans, him talking about how big his hands is, him talking about the Bushes, him saying things about McCain, and it was a lot of that. But even if you go back, people talk about, in the 90s or even the 80s, people talk about his character as a businessman and his character in general. So it's not something that's new. It's something that that this has been ingrained in his character.
Oh yeah, I agree with that.
I know there's a movie out that I haven't seen but only been told about, that he was groomed by this one lawyer or some sort, and the lawyer would tell him, whatever happens, you deny. This is something that you can see right now, today. Now, if Trump was the way he was, like now, and then he didn't have followers to exaggerate how his action and his character inside of American culture, I probably wouldn't say much. But I see that every day now, and I see people with less and less compassion. And it's not just on Trump. It's not. It's some people that are just hungry for power, hungry for, because, nobody trusted Hillary Clinton. We all know nobody trusted her. And I was a little too careless about the emails. I never thought that was a big deal, that it was the way people were making it. But I did understand that how she got her power and how she was coming up in power and everything. I didn't, think it was always legit. That's just me. It's just something that I know people inside that realm is a little bit more cutthroat, and I do get that. But
and then there's the issue of her being a woman. I mean, that was a huge draw to Hillary. It's just, for some reason, as human beings, we like to see the first. Firsts are a big deal to us, and I think that was a large part of her appeal. If Hillary had been a man, I don't think she would have come anywhere near a presidential nomination.
I would agree with that, because in 2008 it was either her or Obama, and people had rather seen a black man than a woman.
Well, it's not just that either with Obama. I mean,
Obama got elected because he built up that acorn.
He was a charismatic, well-spoken. Yeah. He has a natural talent. Obama was very well-spoken. He could craft a good speech. He had the charisma. Back then, he was a pretty good-looking guy. He didn't age really well. Nobody does when they get into office.
Right.
Obama getting elected was the redemption of the liberal white guilt. and what
Yes.
allowed them to evolve into this I'm a victim too mentality that has led to this extremism.
Hmm. Okay.
You know,
You think so?
Obama getting elected cleansed liberal whites of their original sin
What I
that allowed because we
hmm,
got a black guy elected. That's
what
how I see that support that he gained from white voters. The support that he
what
got from black voters is completely natural. Like that's exciting. You know,
right.
that's
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think the same thing that Trump is going through is the same thing Obama went through, and a lot of people, especially on the right, can't see it. But I remember when Obama got elected, and when Obama got elected, people were coming out the woodworks, making all these accusations about him. Oh, he's from, he's Islam, he's Islamic, not knowing that he went to the church. Oh, he hates this and he does that, and he's just, and being racist too as well.
Oh yeah,
I
there's
believe
plenty of that.
this took an Obama from a centrist to the left. It definitely pushed him,
Fair enough.
and that was something I saw with my own eyes, like thinking like, wow, like Obama stopped going to his church. He went to church. But then they crucified the church he was going to because the guy said something. I forgot what he said. I think
It
he
was the
said,
goddamn America comment,
oh, that's right.
and
That's
which
right.
you have to admit if that I understand
I
that
didn't hear what he said. I didn't hear what he said. But I just know he
he
said something.
his past I can't remember the pastor's name. I should know this. He did a message where he tore America apart for all. It was all race based, pretty much. And it was not a good message. And I
Mm,
understand you got to look at a whole series. You got to look at things in context. But that being said, shouldn't put all of that on Obama because we don't really know how he reacted. He could have gotten up and walked out in the middle of that
right,
message. I don't
right.
know.
There's things that Solidarity Party members have said where we've not agreed with them.
We're going through
Right.
that right now.
Yeah, like, and we as individuals have to understand that, you know, we're individuals. We
Right.
Right.
collectively we are a group, and we've aligned ourselves with a certain set of values. But at the end of the day, there is that one or two little things that we kind of disagree with, and we kind of sometimes we express that in ways that are not appropriate.
So I got a question for you guys.
Mhm.
Just a random question. So I seen Obama being pushed one way, and that people on the far right were just accusing him constantly. If they had not done that, do you think gay marriage would have been legalized?
Oh yeah, I think he
Abs-
would have.
Because I feel like he was pushed to the left. The left welcomed him, and then he was like, "Okay, I'll give
I
you the
think the
left what they
support
want."
was there.
well, okay. So, gay marriage would have been legalized because it wasn't legalized by any state movement or congressional movement. It was legalized by, court order. So, which Supreme Court basically said it violates the Constitution. So you can't make laws against it.
Obama was young, more progressive. He represented change. It was inevitable. Carvel, you might have a point. He may have been more open to it and more supportive of it, but it would have happened one way or the other. I don't think how he was attacked had anything to do with his decision. Like I said, the
Well,
only thing it could have done is maybe soften his stance to it, but it was going to go through on his watch.
it's the same sort of attack that Trump gets, right? Because we know Trump was all about holding the transgender flag, saying he loves the LGBTQ community. We've all seen that picture, right?
Yeah.
We've all seen how he's good friends with Caitlyn Jenner. I forgot. We've all seen him, um, being left. At least I've seen it. But now this Trump is very right. And I think during his presidency, especially the beginning, the left pushed them to the right. I seen that push too, and I think that's something that obviously, Obama and Trump, they have their cabinets that are very conservative or liberal, giving them ideas of what they should do. But I feel like those presidents started off at a different spectrum, and they ended to either the right or left because of being pushed by the other side.
Well, yeah, presidents are going to be fluid. They're going to respond to cultural trends and societal trends and different scenarios. I mean, Trump is supposed to be the president of no war. There was rockets launched on his watch in his last term, and we see what's going on now. As Ukraine was supposed to be over within 24 hours, and of course, we all knew Trump was being typical facetious Trump saying that, but they're constantly changing to respond to these things. So yeah, it's a complete fair assessment, and every one of them is going to do it.
I noticed that a lot of people seem to be pinning these attacks as mostly like the right are the poor innocent ones, and it's these extremist leftists that keep doing these sorts of things. Lest we forget, Melissa Hortman from Minnesota and her husband and John Hoffman were attacked. That was a right-leaning, politically motivated attack on a Democratic state congressperson. And it looks like this Charlie Kirk killer, which is really muddled right now. I'm still waiting for things to settle.
So have you heard the recent development on him?
Yeah.
I don't know what to believe right now.
That's the best way, Chris.
He seems very to float between the lines, and until we get like a manifesto or whatever. But I agree. I've heard
apparently he
rumors.
had a trans partner.
That's what I've heard, but I also heard he was living with his parents and had been living with his parents. So
right.
I heard that a classmate of his had said he was, super progressive from a super conservative family. Then I hear
which is not odd.
Which isn't odd. But then I hear he's alt-right now and a Nick Fuentes, follower.
Right.
Do you think that any one particular group is doing this? Do you think that, or one particular side is doing this? Do you think that this is common enough that this is an issue? Or do you think that these are just rare situations that are being riled up by the media? And do you think that the media is almost creating more violence by continuously focusing on it?
100%.
Social media, mostly. I don't blame the mainstream media as much as I do social media.
And are we part of that problem?
No, absolutely.
Yeah, we're trying to. I feel like we're bringing, us in particular, I feel like we're bringing more points of views that are not too far left or too far right, but kind of an understanding of who we are as a political culture. We're all from 3 different backgrounds. We all have 3 different opinions, but we're all talking and sharing. That's what I like to say. Sharing ideas.
This party is a great example. I mean, I would not be here if it were not for the discussion that I had seen taking place. I'll give a great example. I'm sure fellow committee member Leah Lacey doesn't like me very much. Probably does not like my views. But when I'll post something on Facebook and she's not so callous toward me that she can't respond to it and laugh. I had some questions about another business that I was trying to start up. Leah messaged me and we talked through some ideas in that private message together. So no matter how far apart we are on that, we're still in the same party. We're on the same committee. We still talk to one another and we can do it respectfully. And I can say the same for other people that I've worked with so far in the party. That's a beautiful thing. That's something you're not seeing from either side. And that was Chris. I won't get too deep in the weeds on this, but that's why I felt so strongly in that private message about the situation I discussed the other day, is because this is an opportunity for us to distinguish ourselves from what has become a rotten, irredeemable culture It's two-sided. You ask if it was a particular side that's doing this. I say yes, the violence is left heavy. We have the statistics to prove that. The majority of people on the left are okay with using murder and violence. It is far greater numbers than the right believes that. Take that for what you will. The group in particular, when you ask, is there a particular group that's doing this? Absolutely. It's young men who have become listless. They have no purpose in life. And that's completely understandable. You can't make a good wage anymore. It's hard to have a life. They can't get out there. They can't find partners and love. They feel hopeless. They have been riddled by these mental health drugs that complete, and I've been on these before. I know the effects. They completely take away your emotions, your rationality. You don't care about yourself. You care even less about others. They sit there and play video games. They use drugs to escape from this reality that we've created where they simply cannot exist. What do you think is going to happen? And I would say that's why with this, you say kind of seems to bounce between the spectrums. It makes complete sense. If he is a Nick Fuentes follower, he's probably addicted to the power and the authority that he sees on that side. He's addicted to the victimhood mentality that he sees coming from the other side, and he merges them into this weird mashup of one way or another, I'm going to get what I want.
I kind of want to challenge you a little bit on that, Matt. Let's think about Buffalo, right? What happened in Buffalo, New York? A white a white male walks into a store, starts shooting up everybody that can see. This is one of the issues. Sorry, this is just a side note on the gun issue. Mm-hmm. Did you know the security guard had a gun and shot at him?
Oh, really?
But he shot at him, and when he shot at him, the shooter had armor, and so that did nothing. And the guy the shooter killed him. So that's just one point I want to bring about gun control, right? So sorry, I had to throw that in there just a little bit. But we see that this is happening on both sides, right? The other young white male that went into a black church and shot everybody. So there's countless stories, and these are people from the alt strong right. We know this. And then we see it also from the left too, as well, where they're going into Christian schools. Most recently, the one we just talked about, I assume that guy is a leftist, but I don't know. It's happening on both sides, and it's something that we have to tackle this violent extremism, because and especially among our youth, because if we don't talk about it, especially among our youth, they're going to be quiet, shy, and then act out. This is happening with everyone.
And I think what we really need in this country is just to start talking to each other, not talking to our group. We need to talk to each other, reach out, get off the screen. As you know, the who was it? The governor of Utah, whoever was doing the press conference, he came out and said, "Go and touch grass," right? That's what we need to do. We need to go out, touch grass, meet people, talk to them, learn about them. You will see that they are just like you. And we would start seeing less of this extremism, because we'll start seeing that, we're just all trying to do the same things. Some people just think they have better plans than others. And that doesn't mean that the other person's plan is bad. But if you keep thinking everyone's plans are bad, then you start getting more and more extreme with yours to ramp it up. And that's what leads to this sort of political violence.
I just wanted to talk to you guys and the crowd about extremism and how dangerous it is and how we have to communicate to one another. This is important as a society and as a culture. And I am Carvel with We Have Issues.
I'm Chris.
I'm Matt.
You guys have a good day.
Thank you.